All right, we are now live on the Wade's Ventures YouTube channel, guys. Welcome into tonight's show. Tonight is a Wednesday, and it's been a while, guys. I'm not gonna lie. It feels like it's been forever since we've done and had an amazing guest on the channel. And so let me say hello to some people in chat, and then we'll get going, guys. If you're new to this channel, thank you so much for joining. We have a very special night, an amazing night. In fact, out of my 100 and something interviews, this gentleman, this guest, has been #1 requested for a while now. So it's going to be a really cool night. A lot of cool questions, and I can't wait to get into this. Let's say to some people. We got Cindy, Roaster Raccoon, Ken, what's going on? The Shamrock Pixie. You've got an amazing name, by the way. Another Ken. There's two Ken. Oh, no, never mind. That's one Ken. We have Josh. What's going on? A perfect buy. Welcome in. Finally caught a live show. So welcome in, guys. And we have Barry. Man, the chat is going. We have Pac-Man, the best admin in the business. What's going on? Eve, what's going on? Hollywood Rage. Nick, Kathy, what's going on? All right. So we don't want to spend too much time here because I've got a list of questions on the laptop that I'm going to ask Don here. But without further ado, I want to tell you that if you're new to this channel, I'm going to constantly be putting his YouTube channel link in the chat. And you guys click it, subscribe, and the game here is let me know what number subscriber you are. You may not be able to tell because he's got a few subscribers, but let me know when you've subscribed. I'll give you a shout out to his channel. And also Pac-Man will be putting in chat. And the very last thing before we get started, guys, is I am an open book on my YouTube channel. So if you guys want to promote your YouTube channel or your Poshmark name or your eBay name or your Instagram name, if you want to do any social media promoting, as long as it's within reason, you guys can do that as much as you want throughout the chat. And we already have a ton of people. And before we get started, I want to ask if you guys are already subscribed to his channel, type 1. And if you're not, type 2 before we get going. I'm curious to see how many amazing people is already subscribed, because a lot of people I know watch the Auction Professor. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to him so he can introduce himself.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Thank you, Wade, for having me on the channel. This is going to be this is the first channel I went on. Wade was one of the first ones that I actually watched that I thought was a good channel. Part of why I picked Wade to be the first one, he's got kids. He's a family guy. He seems like my type of person. I remember the days having small kids. Obviously, my kids now are 16 and 19, so it's a long way off from those days. We were actually just talking. It seems like it's hard to believe that, you know, I had a life before kids, honestly. So honestly, I mean, me and the wife talk about it all the time, and it's just hard to think about days, you know, without the kids anyway. So really glad you had me on, Wade. Thanks for pushing this out here for everybody too. So
it's funny because we were talking, and the fact that he has, and we'll talk more about this because he also has employees, and some of my questions are, you know, when's a good time, you know, to get an employee, and kind of some work in progress when you have an employee and different things like that. But he has people working for him that's within the family that helps the business, and my mom helps, and Ashley helps, and my family helps. My 2-year-old doesn't do much helping, but he helps a little bit. So it's really, really cool, guys. And I'm super excited to be the first one to interview this guy. Really cool. So I'm going to put his YouTube channel link. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe. Let me know what number you are. All right. So let's get into this. Let's get into this amazing interview. So first of all, give us a little bio on how you got started selling. I know personally, but for those that are watching that don't, tell me how you got started doing the full-time stuff.
Full-time wise, I've been into selling stuff since I was like 7 or 8. When Star Wars came out, I used to draw all the Star Wars characters and sell them for a nickel, a quarter, whatever the case may be. That's how I first started. But with full-time, we've been selling on eBay for, since they were called eBay. It used to be called something else, and I've totally slips my mind what it was called before that. But literally the first year they were opened as eBay for like 9 months when we put our first item up. So I'd been on eBay for a long time, but full-time wise, we graduated college. I was just so put down when we you know, had to drop out when we had our first child. And then said, let me go back. I was tired of working in foods. I was first a GM and then an RM, regional manager. I handled a region. And we just bit the bullet, said, let's go back to school. Figured it'd help the kids see that it's something to do. We did finish my AA, my BA, and then my MA, get out of school with, you know, what I would think would be a real good degree and some way to advance your life. And there's just nothing in the area we lived in. So it put us in a bind, and, you know, let's try eBay. That's literally what we came up with. The wife was looking for jobs and doing stuff around the house. And I just started going on eBay and bombing everything that we had up and, you know, going from there. And it turned from just making enough to make our bills, you know, to actually turning over a bigger and bigger profit. And one day we just decided, you know, my wife started working, the kids started working. Why should I even look for a job anymore? Because at this point, you know, we're almost making more than I was as a regional manager with bonuses. And we made really good money. So you know, it was a shocker. I mean, I could have done this 20 years ago and been so much better off, but you live and you learn. So
that's crazy. You have you're an educated guy then. That's incredible. It's funny how, like, you know, you do something part-time, you enjoy it, and then somehow it turns into something bigger. And I think that's what happened with you. So you basically were this close, probably, at being one of the first items sold. 9 months. That's pretty quick into back when they were probably mailing you a check, right?
I think you could still get it bank-wise, man. You're talking a long time ago. When eBay first started, it was mostly like Pez and toys and things like that. I remember one of the first things I sold was a Pez, and the second thing I sold was a 8mm Star Wars 20-minute film. Those are the first two things I sold. The Pez sold first, and it went for some crazy money that I would have never guessed. And it was just something we found by a lark too. We were just searching on the internet. This was with dial-up, you know, and AOL and the whole works back in the day.
Yeah, it's funny. There's still people out there with AOL.
Yeah, I saw one the other day.
Yeah, guys, if you have AOL, don't be shy. Let us know. Let us know in the chat. So tell me a little bit, and we'll get into the eBay questions here soon, but tell me a little bit about, like, how the family helps you with eBay. I know that you've got you know, a really close-knit family. How do they help you day to day with your eBay business?
It depends on, one of my sons only does processing and searching, sorting, bundling. He does photos too, but he mostly does the sorting. My youngest one does photos. He'll help process, because when we get stuff in, it's sometimes 1,000 or 2,000 things paper-wise or whatever the case. We buy in massive bulk, and kind of like you with the storage units. But ours is mostly the same type of item. So the wife will always list. She does photos. She answers emails, helps package. Pretty much everybody helps package if we're in a tight run. This morning it was just horrendously hectic, and I had to have 3 people out here. We were all packing up, and we switched over and are all new doing bulk everything. So it was all a learning experience for everybody. So today was one of those bad days, but normally we just bounce around and what needs to be. I'll assign somebody photos or whatever the case may be. Today, Ian was here. He usually helps me on live feed, and those who've seen some of the shows have at least seen him in there and heard him. So he was here, and he did scanning. He does editing videos for me. I've got another one that just does scanning. Literally everybody knows how to do everything. The only way this works is if you cross-train everybody on everything. So that's the key to making this work. So if somebody doesn't show up, your photo guy doesn't show up, somebody else better darn well be able to fill in for him. If, you know, we have to take off with the hospital, my business didn't shut off at all. Somebody else just came in, did all the phones, did all the emails, did the Amazon touches and some of the other things that we do. So everybody here can do everything, but we do assign, if somebody likes something like only listing or only photoing, we're fine with them doing that, just so they know how to do everything in a pinch and don't complain. So
I like the fact that you said don't complain. It's so that's what's really cool about now. How long have your kiddos been working for you?
My oldest has been working for us for like 4 years. Wife started just after the end of the first year. I pretty much did it all for the first year. She took care of the kids and all that kind of stuff. She went with me when we went sourcing, but she didn't actually do much in the typing. She wasn't really a fan of messing with the computer, honestly. So, you know, she's fine. I've shown her how to do pretty much everything. So she's pretty much able to do everything, up to doing payroll. And she's the only one who does payroll besides me. She's the only one who does the financials or talks to our accountant for payroll. We have a separate accountant just that we do deal with at the end of the year, but she helps with that too. So
now, does like tell me, how is it like waking up with your wife and doing the same business together? I mean, working as spouses, you know, you hear some things like I'm sure you guys do extremely well. How is it? Isn't it pretty amazing? I guess my question isn't it pretty amazing that you can wake up with somebody and have like a singular goal and something you both enjoy and be able to spend time with at the house, right? Or do you guys have a warehouse by chance?
we have my father's old, I guess you'd call it his workshop. I use for storing records. We've got a couple 100,000 records in there, and it's climate controlled is the key to it. So, and it's not where we live, but it's at my mom's place actually. I wouldn't pay for a storage facility for what we do personally. Nothing against anybody who does. It's just I keep our costs down no matter what.
It's funny. I got the same like comments like, "Hey, why do you do this out of your house?" It's because I don't want it to pay to have a brick and mortar just for storing my items when I can use this 2-car garage, you know. So you got to keep your costs as low as possible. And I especially in this business, I really think like anything you can save on, especially when it comes to taxes, writing off, you know, your internet and possibly rooms in your house, depending on your state, stuff like that. Anything you can do that you can save money. So. All right, so let's get into these questions, guys. I've got crazy good questions to ask. I want to spend a lot of time asking these questions because he is extremely knowledgeable, and I know you guys are going to be interested to hear some of these. So I've got no particular order. So I'm really curious. I know that you talked about like, you know, the 4 of you guys and how you guys, you know, different things that you guys do within the business, but tell me a little bit about you. Like once you wake up, tell me what you do. I know you probably do a combination of everything. Give us a day in the life of you reselling.
A day in the life of me. Well, let me just put this, touch on another thing you just said. Me and my wife have worked together for longer than anybody else I know. We worked together at Disney at one time until I was able to get an art job. And we've worked together in many places before. The only reason we didn't in the last spot because I was the boss and you can't work in that kind of relationship. But for me, I'm up with my youngest son does drill. He does the JROTC drill at his school. So I get up with him like at 5:30 in the morning. That's when my day starts, Monday through Friday, every Monday through Friday. As soon as I drop him off, because there's no bus service first thing in the morning, at that time, it's not standard bus. I'm literally down here answering emails, pulling out my mailings for the day, you know, seeing what I need to do. Usually I have a schedule sheet and I always carry a tablet wherever I go. I've got one right now even. And literally I'll see what needs to be done. If we got new items in, I'll set those up. That's usually the first thing I'll do is set up any new items coming in. Like tomorrow I go for a pick. So I'm going to be at a hall tomorrow morning at 7 in the morning. So as soon as I get back, I'll be sorting that out, deciding whether we list it, store it, or assign it a different day to mess with it again. So, and then it's finishing up at 11 o'clock's my cutoff point for my mail. So at 11 o'clock, I print my master scan sheet and everything else gets labeled from there. Employees wise, my wife's usually already working by like 9. My kids work depending on, you know, school availability. So most people work in the evening. When they're out of school, obviously the whole schedule changes around. They'll come in the morning at 9, but usually I run till probably 8 or 9 Monday through Friday. And my day off is usually Sunday half day, and the rest of the time we're usually doing eBay. Even on Saturday I ship. I do full-fledged business all day Saturday. And as I said, just Sunday is usually the day I take off.
How did you and the wife meet?
Actually at Disney. We actually got married at Disney unofficially in a spot you weren't allowed to get married at. It's not even there anymore. Used to be called Little Lake Bryan. It was turned into what's the shoot? There's an island out there for animals, and Discovery Island. That's what it used to be called. And we got married out there on property, unofficially, unannounced, and we just kind of all met up there. And I met her at Disney. I had been there like maybe not even 6 months, maybe 4 months. And she walked in one day and just hit it off, I guess you could say.
And the rest is history.
Pretty much so. There was a big thing. One of the gentlemen there actually works for Disney, and he does art and illustrations. He does Dragon Con and all that stuff. And they used to draw comic books from the cast members and the crew there. And he always drew us, you know, hugging and kissing all the time. I mean, it was a big joke, I guess. Anybody who knows us used to make fun of the whole issue. So,
how long have we been married?
Over 20 years. We were married in 99. Or I'm sorry, 1990. 1990. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's you know, I was enough, and I know my beautiful wife is in chat right now, and she was like, ask him about Disney. Ask him about Disney. That's really cool. She's a Disney fanatic. All right. So, you know, one of the things I wanted to ask you is, I get this question a lot, and I think that you can definitely answer this position. So, I want to real quick tell me a little bit about, like, when is a good time to get help? Like, when do you think? I know you've got your family, but you know, your actual employees. Like, when do you feel that, you know, an eBay or an Amazon business or an online business, when's a good time for somebody to consider getting help?
I mean, that's honestly, it's going to depend on your individual business. But for me, when we hit a point where we were making all of our bills and we had a certain percentage over that amount, we said, let's bring in somebody for a couple hours a week and just see how that goes. That was literally it. We already had our kids working when we brought an outside person in. And we had talked about it literally for like 8 months before we decided to take the jump. And just because we were really nervous, I've done payroll for, you know, international companies with the restaurant industry and all that stuff. So I'm fine with doing payroll, but every state has legalities, and we were going back and forth on that. So I guess it was a push. One day we just needed so much help. We had a huge lot of records came in. It's like 20,000 records. I had nowhere to put these things. It was, no one was here. The kids weren't here. And we just said, let's just bring somebody in. And we bit the bullet after 8 months of going back and forth and being nervous. I called, you know, the accountant that we had done and went back and forth and trying to find one. We priced it all out. We figured out what would be a cheap way to do it. If anybody needs any answers on that too, at another point, I can set you up on how to set up all that kind of stuff too. But there's a way you can save money with an accountant and all that kind of stuff when you do payroll. There's different terms and things like that. But
and what, like, so okay, so you got, by the way, that's crazy to process 20,000, you know, or even 1,000 items in a setting. For me, at least, I get a storage unit, so I'm sitting there like, how the heck am I going to do this? Like, I'm a one-man show. It's incredible. But okay, so give me, like, do you have any like lessons learned? You know, like, for example, you got your employees. Is there anything that, like, you can tell yourself before you hired employees that you would have done differently, maybe processes or something like that?
For me, I used to hire people. I've hired, you know, general managers, assistant managers, and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of employees over 20 years working in as management and working as a regional. So I don't personally, you know, I never worry about that. I'm a fairly darn good judge of character for the most part. One thing I can say, though, is price out and check out every accountant you plan on using. Do not do payroll if you have never done it before without hiring an accountant. It's 100% necessary for 95% of the people out there. I did it, and I know what I'm doing just because there's so many state issues. If you hire an accountant and there's an issue with workman's comp payments, or let's say you're doing it every 6 months, depending on where you live. We do ours quarterly for our paperwork, and we file our federal taxes and workman's comp quarterly. If you miss a date, you could be in some serious trouble. If you miss sending something in, there could be fines. You could, if I don't know what everybody else's state is, but we have RETA here, which is you know what that is? We have RETA. So with RETA, if you don't get it in, your first offense is like a $250 fine right off the bat. No leeway, no nothing. And that's just with the basic file. So hire somebody in, either that, or the other option we were offered was we could pay the service fee for them to show us what to do. And at this point, I'm like, I'll just pay it. I'll get it done. I won't have to worry about that extra headache. For us, it's about getting all that stress off. Let somebody else deal with the legality, because if something isn't right or there's a form that's filled out wrong, it's 100% the accountant's issue, not us. Yeah, it could come back to you, but in the general scheme of things, we checked out the accountant. He's got high ratings across the board. You know, he's certified. You know, he's got the degree. It's a family business. His son works for him. So, you know, I trusted him. I did the free consultation. We paid for a second one. You know, we ran everything by the guy. We were completely honest. That's the other thing. If you're going to hire an accountant for payroll or anything, and you're going to touch base on your business, your income, what you do, you got to be honest with your accountant. Don't be hiding anything. I've heard people have horror stories where they don't tell the accountant everything. And at the end of the year, you're going to have some fiasco beyond belief. That's the biggest things that I always see in that aspect. And I've heard that from probably 5 or 6 personal people that I know who have started and had their own business too. So,
Hugh, that's why we have this man on here, guys. That's really good input. Miss Miller, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. I appreciate you. Speaking from a creator, it's awesome that we get support from you guys. I really appreciate you. You're always supporting the channel and the clutter guy. Guys, he has got a great YouTube channel and an inspirational Instagram. Appreciate you as well. And thank you so much for hitting the like button. 150 people watching. Let's hit that like button if we can below the video. All right. So I was going to ask, one question regarding how much you pay your employees, or what's a good way to pay your employees. So that's one question for you. And then also, any tips or tricks finding a CPA in your area? I know that obviously, for me, like, I wanted to find somebody really local so I can go knock on their door if there's something wrong. But those 2 questions for you, Don?
It depends on what your minimum wage is what I would say. I would always charge or give them at least $1 more. The only other considering factor is if you're new to hiring, pay as little as you have to start with. Let's say you're paying them $9 an hour. You're going to lose another $1.25 in processing, workman's comp per hour. So whatever you're doing, add $1.25 minimum to it. And again, it depends on what you're doing and where you live. It could be higher. So compensate for that in the end. And plus, on top of the fees you pay the government, your taxes, workman's comp, and all that, you've also got the accountant fees in there, which also have to divide it up. For us, I literally threw out a spreadsheet, figured out the pay rate. We were going to charge how many people we're going to get billed at, the workman's comp charges, the tax charges, federal charges, and account. And then I literally divided it all out and figured out what it cost me per hour, all in, every dime total. And that's literally, I went from there to figure out where we could go. Now we give out raises too. So I'll start somebody off at the basic and then we'll increase it. Ian's been here for a while. So he's one that's going to get a raise here soon because he's one I rely on. Obviously my kids are a different story. We handle them in a different, I don't treat my kids any differently than the employees either. So we had one of my sons wants to do some more now. So he wants to be able to earn a bunch more money. He wants his car and the whole works. So I'm not going to take away something that somebody else does to give it to my son, because that's not how I work my business. So, you know, you got to be fair. If you're hiring family members, you have to do the same thing to them as you would do for your family members. So, you know, you got to watch out on that. Pay wise though, if they're doing a good job, raise them well above minimum wage, no matter what. You want them to stick with you. It's not a glamorous job. You know, it beats fast food. It beats working in retail, restaurant, and things like that. So, you know, like, it depends on who your employee is and how well you get along with them. The people who work for me have been coming and spending nights at my house for a couple of years, and pretty much since we've got to Ohio. So, you know, they're kids. They know our house. They can just grab something from the fridge. They can grab a pillow from the cabinet, or, you know, whatever they want to do. So I don't have issues that a lot of people would with that. For a CPA wise, I checked the Better Business Bureau. I looked around, just do a quick Google search and type in the name of the CPA you're looking for along with lawsuit. See if they've been sued. And you're laughing, but I'm serious. Check that all out. I checked out everything. My neighbor is an actual CPA next door, but I don't know her business. She was working for somebody else. So I wanted the best one. I also asked on prices, and then you also ask on if they offer a free consultation first. At least you can go in there, explain what you're looking for. You can get an answer without paying. usually they will do that for you. If they don't, I would just go on to another one if they don't offer you a free consultation too. It's going to be 30 minutes. They'll tell you an hour, but you get in there, it's only 30 minutes. Have all your questions written down immediately before you get in there so you're not wasting time. Get them all out. Just rush through it and research what you're doing. When I walked into my accountant, the first day there, the first interview, first talk with him, I made sure I knew what the licensing laws were, what the payroll laws were, what the minimum wage was, to make sure I knew what the site was that they filed on, how it's set up, how the banking's set up. I already had a EIN with a separate business bank account to handle this. Never run it through your personal account, ever, ever, ever. When you hire an accountant, they have access to your bank. So, you know, you're giving them range. They technically could steal every dime in your bank account. So I am 100% serious. You darn well better check out every single thing you can. Again, look up lawsuit. Call the county court office if you have to find out if there's been anything levied against that business ahead of time. All things I did. No lie, that's what I did because I am going to be safe. I picked the one that was the best. I picked one that didn't advertise on TV. I don't want some glamour guy. I want some guy who knows his business. I want some guy who has a master's degree as well, and that's what this guy has. So
that's an amazing tip. I never thought about that. See if they've been sued. I've never thought about that. That was really good. So, all right, no particular order. By the way, there's so much. Can we get some love for Don in chat? There's a lot of people. I don't know if you can see chat right now, but they love you guys. If you're not subscribed to this man, I don't know what you're doing. By the way, he does these really cool backdrops right now. It's the winter backdrop, so it's kind of snowing in the back. So really cool YouTube channel, guys. Go check him out. Make sure you subscribe. But Don, give me some sourcing tips. You don't have to tell me where you get items or anything like that. But if I'm a kind of a new reseller or even a full-time reseller, what do you recommend? Like, is there any, like, do you use websites? Like, you know, what about networking? Like, what kind of tips would you give somebody for sourcing items, or what items to source if they're full-time or part-time?
If you're new, the best bet is local live auctions for what I personally sell. That's my number one recommendation. Just to side off on that for just a second here. For us, I have pickers. One of mine actually passed away last month, so things have been a little hectic. I kind of even hate to get into buying his lockers out. He's got a bunch of storage stuff too, but pickers are your best bet. If you can get in with somebody, I networked my butt off when I first started. I contacted everybody. I ran into the same people over and over again at the auctions, estate sales. I used to do Craigslist massively, so I ran into people that way. And then when we first started, we were scanning books and doing clothing, so I'd run into other scanners at Savers. And I'd ask around. I'd ask, where do you get these at? What happens? Most of them aren't going to tell you anything, but you run into the same ones. You give them a clue sometimes. Hey, I find books here. Sometimes you might have to give up part of a source. But if you get a good camaraderie with somebody, that's how I connected with people. Some of them are, as I said, Craigslist. But if you don't have any of that ability, you're not great talking to people, or you're just new, local live auctions. And it doesn't have to be just like you. There's storage auctions here too. I don't like the space it takes up. It's the only reason I don't do that. I have done it, so there's nothing wrong with it, obviously. I like watching the videos anyway, so you got to find out what's in your area. For us, we hit up, I have got a couple partners on some deals I do where we'll buy out like a restaurant chain that went out of business, and I'll buy parts of it. One guy will take computers, one guy will take the internal stuff, another guy will take certain types of equipment or the chairs and things. They have secondary sources. They'll auction them off. Some of the people I work with actually run auctions. That's why I say auctions for me have been my start into this field. Auctions and Craigslist. Craigslist nowadays around here is dead, but Facebook Marketplace is out there too. I haven't been very successful at that at all. I'm finding stuff. Pretty much these days, it's auctions and pickers for me. That's it.
Are you pretty much the one that sources within the business, or does your wife help, or the kiddos?
My youngest son is big into the military stuff, being in the drill team and all. It's not going in the military, but he's into it. So he goes to a lot of the military, and he'll help me pick at military shows and events like that. The wife goes with me to any thrift store and most of the antique malls. There's a few she just hates just because of the layout, and it's the bigger ones usually. And I walk like I'm really fast when I'm there. I'm all business. So You know, there's three of us basically. If we're out of town somewhere and we're out doing something else, we'll always source when we're out of town. Even if we're on vacation, all of us go. And everybody can find something. My oldest knows what to look for too. He's just not as thrilled on it unless it's electronic oriented or something like that.
Isn't it really cool to like at least be a part of, like, have your kids being a part of your business? I think that's amazing.
It is. For us, the family is most important. Everybody here likes jackets. So that's the one thing everybody here in the household always looks for. My sons can wear my jackets. So, you know, we swap over. I've got like 20 leather jackets, and some days it's a fight to wear the same one. They always like the Fight Club one I wear, and that's the one that everybody wants to wear. And if you're not the first one to my closet here, it's gone already.
All right. So this is a loaded question here, but I'm curious. What qualities do you think good resellers have?
Good resellers quality. Now that's a tough one. I know people are terrible talking to people that do extremely well. I would say, you know, being able to converse with people is key, but again, that's not necessarily key if you have the knowledge to be able to source without having to worry about pecking over prices or trying to make contacts. So there's things out there. There's people who just do auctions or just do specific kinds of things that don't need that ability. Basically, the basic skill to be able to research something is key. The other two things that I talk about constantly is a drive. If you don't have a drive, I mean, that's the number one thing, a goal and a drive. With the issues with my son that happened last week, we've doubled down, and that's part of the reason I'm now broadcasting out, and we decided to go on some other channels. You got to have that drive. And people may not think it because I'm kind of mild-mannered, but I've got this big drive inside. And, you know, it's just thinks and thoughts of my kids and family and what I've had to deal with in the past drives me. So if you have the drive, it doesn't matter if you have the skill to start with. You know, if you have the drive to learn it and you want to put in that time, 10, 12, 14 hours a day, if that's what it takes, that's what you got to do. If you have the drive to do that, I can almost guarantee you anybody who has that kind of drive is going to succeed. There's just no way around it. You might fail sometimes, but you're never going to get anywhere if you don't fail. Throw your cards on the table and go for it. That's what I always say.
I couldn't say that any better than you. That was, I got a question for you, and I'm really curious because this really is applicable to you because your kids work for you and your wife. How do you get the work-life balance with your family?
That's a tough one here. We're really tight. We lived out of a state where we had any family. We lived in Washington for a while, the DC area. It's just been us for so long that, you know, all four of us have the same jokes. We have the same sense of humor. We watch the same things. We like the same music. Even my kids listen to what I listened to as a kid. My son listens to AC/DC. It's his favorite group. You know, so when we're in the car, we have, you know, the same song thoughts, the same music. We know the words to the same songs. And we're obviously, my son's way younger than me. So for us, there is no conflict. Time-wise, if they've got to do something, I have no problem stopping. My son wants a ride or a car needs to be in the shop or something. I mean, that's part of why I've got such a drive, because I need that time with my kids. I blew 20 years working 60, 70, 80 hours as a general manager for somebody or as a regional. I was a regional through 9/11. I was a regional in DC through 9/11, through the sniper shootings, through all of that stuff where my life was 90 hours a week. We moved from the Gulf of Mexico, Mississippi, from Katrina, where we lost the house and we did that whole stuff. So it's just been us. We've went through a lot of stuff. So it'll be hard pressed to find somebody tighter knit than the four of us. Not bragging, nothing else. It's us. This is what we do. This is us. It's all us. It's all about us. It's the kids first, the wife second, and me last. And we all see it that way. And that's how we live our life. Kids, if they need something, we stop. If they don't want to work a day because they've got something going on, they don't work that day. It's no problem. I've got somebody else I can call in. So, you know, hopefully that gives you an idea on it. I mean, it's hard to explain because no one's run into, when we meet people, they either think we're really weird or out there, or they get it. There's just no in between for the people we run into in real life. It's weird that we're this type of family because most people aren't. The divorce rate's, you know, 55%, I think, last time I looked. So I'm best friends with my wife. My kids are all friends with us. We're not just parents. You know, there's a line they know not to draw, and you know they're good about it. Our kids are on the honor roll. They know what to do. They're good about everything. I don't, you know, there's no big answer there. It's us, I guess you could say.
I'd be the one to get it. Like, I would love to have your situation when my little guys get bigger. Love to.
Got plenty of time to work into that.
Yes. And sorry for going quick, guys, but I want to grab. This guy's amazing, and I want to get as many questions in there that I put together as possible. And you know, I'm sure he's got a lot of videos. You can go to his YouTube channel and get more in-depth stuff here. But what would you? This is a good one. This is a good one. What would you tell a part-time reseller looking to go full-time? What tips would you give a part-time reseller looking to go full-time?
Number one, don't quit your full-time job until your part-time job is making enough to be full-time. That's the biggest thing I see people make the mistake on. They think they got it. They're making, you know, a couple thousand. They're barely to making their bill mark at that point. They think they got it, so they quit their job. They hate it. I completely understand. I hated many jobs, so I get the feeling though. But until you have enough money coming in to pay your bills, do not risk it. Even if it's just you. If you have kids, it's 10 times more important not to do anything with that. So keep track of what's going on. Know your business. Know how much money you need to make so you can quit your other job. Make sure you've got a backup source too. Even if you quit, the market could change. So know your business. I can't express that enough. I've had that question from other people as well too. Don't quit your day job until you do it. If that means you got to work 70, 75 hours a week, running almost 2 full-time jobs, that's what you would have to do. There's just no way around it. We started off this, ran in full-time with nothing coming in. I went through our bank account. You know, the wife and I ate ramen noodles and the kids ate well. We did whatever it took. You know, we lived cheap. No, we haven't had cable for more than a decade. We were all internet for more than, I'll say 15 years, probably strictly internet. I don't pay any extra money for anything else, no extra services. I don't buy fancy cars. We got the money. I'm not going to do it. We don't know what's the market's unstable. The society these days, you never know if something's going to crash. Don't risk yourself and your life, your well-being, and your family's well-being until you have enough coming in and a good guarantee that you are going to keep that money coming in. That's the key. That's how it works.
I couldn't echo that anymore. Like, of course, I'm, you know, still trying to build that up, you know, I'm sure in a few years, for myself, like, you know, the market, I mean, guys, it's been up and down. You just never know, right? It seems like every 10 years something happens, and it's right around that time. So I couldn't echo that anymore. I guess the thing that I got out of that is bust your butt, seriously, and whatever you do. For me, I could have left my corporate job of 9 years about a year early, but I actually worked T-Mobile on the side, or excuse me, T-Mobile full-time and then reselling on the side. And I got enough inventory to where I was comfortable, made sure I was making a good amount of money, and kind of try to lower my overhead. I think that's really important when you're trying to go full-time, is write down all your bills and try to lower that overhead. So when you do go full-time, you won't have as many things hanging over your head. And that was really important for me, is try to get the cost down. You know, because obviously when I was working in my corporate job, I mean, the year before I made 162,000, and I, you know, had a lot of extra stuff that I was paying for, and I had to get that down. So that way, when I'm full time, obviously, I'm taking a pay cut, but remember, it's the quality of life, guys, to be able to work with your family and to build something that's yours. And so that's a really good question. All right, so what? And just a little piggyback. What items or things would you do before you went full-time? So let's say you're part-time. What items or things would you do to go full-time?
One thing I should say, if you're running a business, even if it's part-time, do it legally wise. Get your license, get an EIN number right away, and separate your funds the minute you start doing it. You should definitely have a business account and a personal bank account. In all honesty, if you got a accountant, you need 2 separate business accounts. You need a transfer account so you can pay people from, and then you need a business account to actually have the accountant take money out too. So that's the number one thing you should do before you do anything in it. Know the laws of that. Full-time wise, make sure you know all the aspects of the laws, again, for tax wise too. The biggest mistake that everybody I see that jumps from working for somebody else and doing part-time eBay to jumping full-time eBay themselves, the end of the year, they screw themselves over because they didn't save enough money for taxes. You know, that's a key factor here, and expenses, things that happen. We've never had to take out a loan, thank goodness, for any of this. And I know some people do, and that's not a problem to get inventory. Don't go out if you get a ton of money at the end of the year and spend it all. That's what I see that all the time. At the end of Christmas, it's Christmas. I'm going to buy a whole bunch of gifts. Come January, sales drop off for some people, depending on what you're selling, or you're all relaxed now and you're not worrying about listing as much. And then you're going to sink yourself. You're not going to have the money to cover your costs. We pay in advance, quarterly, for our taxes, because at this point in our life, we make quite a considerable amount of money. We've been 6 digits for almost 5 years now. So obviously we're well over that now, way into the double. Well, I'm not going to get into the exact dollar amount here, but we do very well. Make sure you know the laws and what you're doing too. Say if you want to branch out, understand whatever other site you're going to. Cross-listing is key to everything working here too. List everything you can on other sites. Have a key site like us, it's eBay. Make sure you pay attention to that one, know it in and out, read the guidelines, read the entire thing. Don't just look at a few bits of it and not understand it. And if you don't understand something, call. But all that should be done before you start selling. I see so many people that start selling and don't have a clue how to do this or to do that. Again, I understand, you know, you're trying to get your feet wet, but if you're going to be full-time, your full-time life, you better darn well understand every aspect of it. Part-time, I understand. That's no problem. I'll be glad to help people get through that. But if you're full-time, by that point, you should have known it. Run it part-time. When you get to a point and you're able to do it, then switch to full-time. Get all your ducks in a row and make sure you got all that stuff figured out. It's too late once you're in the business. You could sink your feedback right off the bat, just like the people who jump into drop shipping. Again, I've done drop shipping, so I'm not complaining per se. But the ones who get into it and want to just do this huge thing, 9 out of 10 of everyone I've ever talked to, and I've talked to probably 20 or 30 people who just do drop shipping, every one of them tanked it because of their feedback and they were kicked off or a site blocked them. And if you're watching what's going on, there's not going to be much drop shipping or retail arbitrage much at all. I mean, we were lucky enough to get some real good retail arbitrage prior to the big monopoly fiasco going on too. But there's a ton of stuff out there, but it's all being limited. So make sure you got backups for everything, I guess I could say.
I think that's really good information. You never know what's going to happen, and this brings me to my next. We only have 5 more questions, guys, and then we're going to talk a little bit about YouTube and kind of when you go live and different things. So, what do you see? What do you see in 2019 for reselling? Do you think 2019 next year? Like what do you recommend? Like what for me, like my goals in 2019 is to do more Amazon, but more importantly, diversify my items I am selling. So what about you? Like what do you see in 2019 for reselling?
Clothing sellers, and this is part of the reason we got out. I'm not a big clothing fan. It was an entrance into it where I could make real good money. It's going to be harder and harder because too many sites have diluted the market. There's no one source anymore. Certain people like one site, certain people like another. So your clientele is down. So if they're not splitting up and diversifying, you're going to get yourself in trouble. The other thing that I can say where we're now making a considerable leap is doing some of the wholesale deals that we have. If you're going to be on Amazon these days, and you don't have the skill set to get in there and get all these forms filled out, or the knowledge to get a wholesale slips to actually be able to sell music and CDs and things and toys, it's harder than ever to get in there and get approved these days. So you got to have your game plan going for this coming up year. You know, even if you don't plan on selling on there right away, start sending that stuff in now for next year, because they could limit all this at any point, any given time, just like Vero's on eBay and stuff. Amazon is picky. We sell in collectibles. We've got full clearance on all the collectibles. I've got toys. I've got a music category as well. Vintage vinyl I sell on there too. But you got to know the market, broaden out. Don't stick just to one site. Those folks who do Poshmark, great. I know there's some people make a ton of money, but 90% of the people that probably are watching this or do the reselling part don't have the ins like you or me or somebody like that does, because they haven't done it long enough, or maybe they don't have the drive. You've got to expand your business to different sites. There's just no single source anymore whatsoever that's going to get you a full-time income without expanding it. Yeah, there's some few people here, few people there, but every YouTuber I see there sells somewhere else, pretty much, at least at some point in their career here. So expand out is key. Look at those markets now, like for Christmas for next year. We've already looked at that. I've already got a tentative deal for next year's Christmas for wholesale. This year we waited till January, and I found out I was already behind in January. So again, if you plan on doing something else, now's the time to do it. Retail establishments buy all the stuff sometimes 2 years in advance. That's why things run out for the holidays and they don't know it's going to be a hot item, because they have to purchase in advance. So know the market, get yourself in early. Again, as I said, we literally have already talked to people for next Christmas. So that's key. Last year, had we done it earlier, we wouldn't have gotten the higher prices that we got in January for the wholesale. And if you search all this stuff out, this is something that could take you months to get this all figured out. So you've got to do it ahead of time. You're thinking 2019, we're already thinking 2020, honestly. And that's the mentality. I'm never looking just a month ahead. You got to get out of the mentality of going week by week or month by month. You got to be thinking year at a time, year in advance, just like not worrying about the little small things or, what's going to happen. I had a bad week. Don't worry about that bad week. Your goal is the end of the month or the end of the year. So that's where people get themselves in trouble. They're not looking far enough in advance in planning stuff out. You get that wholesale deal when it's cheap. Just like we buy most of our inventory during the summer when it's so available that I can get it cheap. Winter months, other than wholesale deals, I don't mess with too much other than my pickers. I don't go to many auctions. I don't need to. I wish you could see the amount of inventory we have. So, I mean, it's a horrendous amount.
I have an idea. I've got Mount Rushmore done in the living room. It's massive. Like I can climb it if I wanted to. And everybody's like, get a warehouse. So, hey, I'm all for scaling a business, but again, like if it's working now until it doesn't work, I'll stick with what, the room I have basically. But so 2019, what is your business goals for 2019? Like what are you going to improve on for your business?
For our specific business, we're moving more towards items. Now, we've done private branding and things like that in the past. It was just so. We didn't make any big, huge profit. I at least got my money back, so I was at least okay with that. For us now, the idea now is, and some of the people have seen my site, I design and I sculpt. I worked for Disney for 10 years. I did artwork for the Fantasyland. So I'm doing sculpting and figures and models. Our goal is to get that going to a point. We just signed a deal so that is constant income. We got a Kickstarter running right, and it's not up yet, but I'm doing a 30-second animated clip of my thing. We've got an employee that's just helping out with that. So we're going to get that going with the Kickstarter and move more of our business or add a second line of business. I actually have a DBA just for this business, and we're going to advance with that. We're going to keep going with what we got. I'm going to hopefully hire a 9th or a 10th employee to handle art-wise. We started off with art in just 2 years ago. This year, we're over 15K in just the artwork of just paper artwork, and we haven't really counted into the model work. So we're going towards our own creations where we can mass produce them, 100,000 at a time, where I don't have to worry about anything. I'll be registered as my own business on Amazon. I'll pay the $1,500+ to get it done. We've got trademark and pending now. I've got, some copyrights that we have a lawyer. We're shelling out a couple grand to get done. So we're going to go full steam into that. We're going to keep advancing with what we're doing on our normal business and just kind of split it off into 2 operations. At some point, we may have an office because it may be a necessity. But as of right now, we're still going to plan on staying where we're at and just branching out. If we get the toy deal going full steam, I won't have to be doing it in my house. It'll be done in a factory. It'll be put together somewhere. The toy companies that I have now, as well as another one that we almost are to the point of signing another deal, they'll all distribute it for me. So I'm not going to be worrying, hopefully, about producing products for at least some of it. That'll at least cover all my bills, and then way more than that. And then we want to turn into a big multi-named company. So I'll have, 4 DBAs by that point, and then we'll have our main company all tied together for like a conglomeration of businesses. It's the only way to get to a point where you can say you're going to be stable and able to weather a bad storm, I guess you could say.
Sounds like your family and you have some pretty awesome goals, and that's awesome, especially when you have your own products. I think that's really amazing too. You can kind of set the amount that you're gonna build and sell, and have stuff coming in that's steady. The records and all that, the vintage stuff, that's awesome. But if you can produce your own product, that's awesome. All right. So Don, what websites and apps do you use? Now, it could be anything, right? Could be coupon apps, anything that helps you with your reselling, journey or your reselling business or whatever you want to call it that kind of helps you with your day to day to save money, or could be anything. Any websites or apps that you use?
I'm not a huge phone person. The only thing I really use is I use the Amazon seller when I'm doing retail arbitrage. I'll use that and I'll actually list the items before I even walk out of the store. And then I use the eBay app. I've got PopPsych on my phone, so I do use PopPsych and Discogs for my phone, but it's more a necessity for doing comps and search results on them. So that's about it on my phone, honestly. I mean, I've got the scanner, I've got everything on it. It's a modern day phone. I'm not a big fan on phones, honestly. I don't talk on the phone in the car. I don't text and drive or anything like that. App wise, I'm always pricing everything. I've gotten to be a semi big fan of Alibaba for some of the things we deal with. I use Newegg. If you're not familiar with Newegg, I use that for most of my items. It's not always the best price, but I use let me think of the name of that site. Computer Media, supercomputermedia.com, I think it's called, for most of my toner needs and things like that for the business. I never shop at Office Depot, Home Depot, any of those kind of stores. Everything comes offline. I never order anything off from a department or, a big box store like that. Everything can be sourced offline cheaper. I can guarantee it. Even off eBay, like we buy our tape off eBay, cheapest 2-inch, at least 2 mil tape, 36 count rolls, 110 yard rolls is what we get. I've got specific, we have the desktop dispensers. I get those all off of line too. Never order from Uline or any of those. It's way more expensive. Don't worry about the name brands. Try them out. Site-wise, I use, I think it's estatesales.com. And then there's auction one. There's 4. I honestly, I don't have them on this PC. I was going to say are the links up here on this one, but I've got like 6 laptops and I always never remember which one I have here. But there's like 4 sites that we use that'll give you information on all the local estate sales, auctions, live auctions. And then I have a couple insider sites that we use, which I'm not going to call it, but I have some that we use for things like who's in what yearbook, things like along that line. I've got some specific for records that I haven't shared before, mostly British sites that deal in Northern Seoul. Insider sites are always the best. Having chains of people you talk to. I've got some Reddits that we have, some private Reddits that we do some business and I can do with that. I've fantasy sites. I use a couple of those for artwork. I'm not going to call those out yet because, it's just what we do. There's not a ton that I use, as I said, on the phone that I go out of the way on. There's not a ton. I'm cheap, so I've got, sources. If I'm buying, I just bought a video capture device and I hunted down. I spent, 30 minutes trying to find the best one at the cheapest rate. I research everything. So anyway, I mean, there's not a lot to say on what I do on that. I use pretty much what everybody else does, except my niches. I have special sites just for those.
No, I think it helps. So here is my second to last question. This one is, I'm always curious. I'm always curious to ask this, but what would you tell yourself when you first started that today? So something that you didn't know when you first started reselling that today. What would that be?
The biggest thing is I'd go back and tell myself to quit my job and go full-time 20 years ago because we'd be so far off. I wasted 20 years of my life working for somebody, salaried spot, working for bonuses and just struggling to get every dime you can for your bonus. I should have done this 20 years ago when the going was hot. If I did it 20 years ago, I'd probably be a millionaire the way the market was back then because you could sell anything. Headless Barbies were going for, a couple $100. I could sell broken anything. You could just put something up there. I mean, not quite that easy, but it was insane the prices we got for stuff back when eBay first started. The first year they were up, it was the big thing. Auctions were the bomb and everybody would bid them up to some crazy price. Nowadays, auctions don't work as well, but back then I should have just jumped in full steam. I was young. I didn't have the knowledge or experience. The college really helped. And I'm not saying everybody has to do it, but for me, it made me a better person. That's all, even if I went bankrupt going to school, I'd still do that too, though. Do it right out of high school. That's what I should have done too, but.
It's always something different. Is it too late for people that, I interview a lot of people, and you think reselling is it too late to resell?
It's not too late if you want to spend the time and put the effort in. Again, it goes right back to drive. You either have a drive for this and it's in your blood. You don't mind getting dirty and going to some really awful, dingy place to score something really good. Without the drive, it just doesn't seem to work for most people I see. They'll get into it. They'll get tired of it. They won't make what they want. They think it's so much easier. You know, that's the biggest thing I see, I guess.
All right, so I've got a really deep question for my last one here. This is deep, Don. All right, so the question here is how has your YouTube channel changed you and your family's life? Like, how has connecting with people on the internet changed your life?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. Gee, I don't know how to answer that one, honestly. You stumped me on one. I like YouTube and I like talking to people. I guess I like to see the different side of it. Believe it or not, I'm a very non-social person out in a atmosphere. I've got select people that not to snub anybody, but I guess I open up a little more on here because they're not right there in front of me, I guess. So I don't know. My family likes it. The wife likes it. You know, kids somewhat. You know, they haven't been on because they're not big fans of being on it, but I don't know how to answer that question, Wade. That's a tough one. I enjoy it and I do like talking to people, so I guess that can be a big plus. The other aspect of it is I used to do weekly meetings with my GMs and things like that, so it kind of fills a void that I had, I guess you could say, because my job was to go into stores as a regional. I had 7 stores. We did Washington, Virginia, and Maryland, and I would go into these stores and I'd have to nitpick and point out what's wrong, point out what they need to fix, get them going in the right direction, get their business off if they were running slow. So I guess I like the aspect of being able to help somebody to get it to where I would want it, I guess. I never had but one person in my business career, this Lou gentleman that I've talked about before, that really helped me. And it's sad to some extent that most people will never have somebody that will come in there and just help them out. Lou was like, it's the only boss I still talk to, honestly. Not that I wasn't friends with other ones, but this guy was the bomb. And I guess I feel like carrying the mantle for somebody else, I guess, at some point. It's I don't know. I maybe somewhat of a thrill to know that somebody else got something out of it and they were able to fix an issue or something. I'm a problem solver. That's what you got to be as a regional or GM, and you got to come in there and figure out what's wrong. And I really like the ability to come in there and point things out that maybe somebody didn't see. Not to be a brag or anything like that. I mean, that was my job. That's what I did for 20 years almost, was addressing issues to figure out how we can save the company money or save this person's job or whatever the case may be. I guess it's filling a void for me anyway, at least. Hopefully that answers, maybe not the best answer for everybody else, but that's probably the closest I could get, I guess.
Do you still have that fire from day one?
Actually, I've got it way more with my son issue. So for me, you know, I've pretty much doubled down on everything here. We've put aside things that were unimportant. We've changed things around. I can't speak enough. I've been up since 5:30 this morning. So, and I'm not stopping when we're done here. I've still got a couple things to do. So I'll be up for another hour after that. That's a typical day. I'm not bothered by that. The drive is, I don't think I've ever had as much of a drive. Maybe I don't look like it when people, you know, talk to me. I seem mild-mannered on things, but you know, it's there beyond belief. And you know, all I got to do is look at my kids to know why I do this. That's literally the only answer for me, is to see my kids, especially with, you know, when medical situations arise, and from this past week's situation we had. And, you know, I just wish everybody would have that same feeling, that same fire, to know that this is the best thing you can get out of life, that you can do it yourself and not have to worry about anything else. Put all the petty junk out of the way and look what's important, family, and getting yourself going the way you want to do it. Don't work for somebody else. That's my key.
So I always tell this to everybody, but I'm like, you know, start social media, not just for the reselling, but also like the personal aspects. You know, God forbid if something happened to me, you know, because my dad passed away when I was 4, and you know, your dad passed away when you were 17. So we've got something a little bit in common, although you had a you know, a very short time, but a little bit of time to get to know them. And it would have been nice if, you know, something happens to me that the kids can watch the young, you know, the young dad on the screen, right? So those that are thinking about social media, tell me, what last question here is what advice would you give somebody that wants to join and start YouTube, or just be on social media in general?
Don't do it for the money. That's the one thing I could say. We didn't do this for the money. I guess I've watched a lot of videos before we ever did it. I mean, long time, you know, and I've talked about it for more than a year before I said, well, why don't I just do it? And again, I didn't expect to make money. We barely break even on anything we do on here. It does fill a need for what I used to do. I used to sit down and, you know, on a daily basis, I'd be trying to talk somebody through an issue constantly. So I guess it's a continuation of, it gives me the best of both worlds. I've got my own business, my own resale, but I still get to do the part. I always loved the conversations and pointing out business issues, because I could look at someone's P&L statement and, you know, right there's your problem. You know, here's how you fix it. And that's what I guess was missing. It makes a complete round of business for me from what I'm used to, because you had to do everything that I do now with somebody else's business, plus the aspect of being able to understand the P&Ls and your loss statements and dealing with all the other aspects of it, understanding how people were, dealing with the court aspects, understanding how to fire somebody without getting in trouble, and all these other things that are involved in it. And, you know, I guess this fills in that gap that I missed, because my wife knows I'd be on the phone constantly when we were working for somebody else. So this fills that, I guess, that gap. It's not a money issue for me. And I guess if you've seen my channel, you know I'm not out for money, because I'd be promoting it everywhere, all over the place. So, you know, that's the biggest thing. Don't do it for money. Do it for me. I'm into it. So this is what I like to talk about, you know, and I don't have a lot of friends who like selling antiques. So for me, it's a way to get this out. A lot of people I know still mess with clothing. I've got a couple book scanners and, you know, people like that. So it fills a gap, a need that I have to get out when I see things wrong, I guess. I mean, hopefully that makes some sense. I mean, I know I ramble a lot, but that's what's in me.
No, it makes 100% sense. And what can people like? When do you go live on the channel, and when do you bring out content on your YouTube channel?
I put a video up every single day of the week. We shoot several in one day usually, and I have Ian usually edits them now. I've had somebody else edit them occasionally if I don't have the time, but I don't usually edit my own videos. So, but we put one up every day of the week. I go live Eastern Standard Time, Ohio time, at 7 o'clock on Thursdays is my typical live show. This week was a little different because we just pretty much shut everything down. And then I had a real long one on Sunday, kind of unannounced. But it's Thursday, 7 o'clock Ohio time is my live show.
Guys, one thing I really appreciate about him is he does a lot of, like, you know, what to sell, what sells well, that sort of thing. I love those videos of yours.
I appreciate it.
And I get a lot of antiques and old stuff in these storage units, and you know, I'm used to selling Nike and athletic gear, so I'm still trying to like learn, right? And so your channel's amazing. So guys, we're at the end of this. I'm going to put his channel in the chat constantly. Here's the thing. The one thing that I can tell you that has helped me now that I've been on social media, both on Instagram and YouTube, is I get to like pinpoint really amazing people that are truly amazing in our community, that has really good stuff to show. And there's a lot of great people out there, and this is an extraordinary person and also an extraordinary YouTube channel, and he's got a lot of knowledge, and I respect him, and I like the numbers aspect that you bring. Really cool YouTube channel, guys. So I want to bring you great people on this channel. That's the point. And we have somebody here that is great. So subscribe to him so that way you guys can learn just as much as I do. And believe me, I am continuously learning. I get a lot more from you guys than I you know, I get a lot more than I send out. So if you guys are watching this after the fact, in the description below will be his YouTube channel link, and you guys can click it there. I have the very, very last question. I know I've lied to you a few times, but I always leave off the show with this question: words of wisdom. What words of wisdom can you put? It doesn't need to be reselling related, but what words of wisdom can we leave the 150 people watching?
The biggest thing, family first. Don't sweat the small stuff. These are things I say all the time, and you have to have a drive. And I don't care if you're not reselling, fine. Have a drive for something. Don't just be meandering down the road with no path to go. Have a drive and a vision for life in general. It doesn't matter about anything else. All these petty things with your life and business and work mean nothing if you don't have health and a family. So at least for me, everybody has someone in their life that they care about. That's my #1 goal for everything I do, beyond belief. I don't care about much other things other than my family and getting this going, where if I do pass away or I have a heart attack, God forbid, that everybody else in my life that was with me is going to be okay when I'm gone. That's my biggest concern, my biggest fact in life, the biggest thing. That vision, the drive, all that stuff is what I think about, and I've thought about since this Lou gentleman that I have. So get something out of it. Don't just be wandering around and going week by week. Have a vision for your life, whatever it may be. It doesn't matter what you do. Everybody can make money doing something. You don't have to resell. You don't have to do anything specific. Just know what you want out of it. Takes a while for some people, but the option's there.
And we only live once. And I really wish I wouldn't have wasted my 20s. I did a lot of stuff in my 20s that I wish I can take back and like work harder during my younger years and then, you know, enjoy a little bit of life, you know, later on. But all right, guys, that being said, again, subscribe to this man. I will be on another show here in 20 minutes, 15 minutes. I'm going to put his link in the description. It's Primetime Hunter. Guys, go check out the live show. He's actually going to interview me for the first time. That's going to be in 15 minutes on his channel. So he's going to interview Mr. Wade's Ventures on that channel, and the link is below. But Don, I appreciate you coming. You were amazing. Guys, you guys know we do the Sunday shows, right? With Rise and Grind and the best beard in the business, the Bearded Picker. So I'm going to try to get Don on here when he's available one of these Sundays to join our live show. I'm going to see, because like I said, this is the first show the first YouTube channel he's been on. And I would really love you to join, because those other two guys are amazing, and you would bring a great amount of information on our topics. So,
well, I'd like to thank you, Wade, for having me on. I really appreciate it. You know, you called up first on one of the live chats, and I did say I'd be first on you if we did one. So I'm really grateful for you putting me on. I appreciate you giving me the time on your channel. I will try to get there on a Sunday show. Sunday's a little tough because, again, that is my only real day off for the most part for that. You know, my kids in life, that all stuff pretty much takes up. But I'll try to get on there when I can. And again, I really thank you, and I thank everybody for watching and commenting and helping Wade out here as well. So again, thanks again, Wade.
Guys, hit that like button. Hit that like button so more people can discover him. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. Again, this is Wade's Ventures. You guys have an amazing night. Thank you so much for joining, and I'll see you in 15 minutes on Primetime Treasures YouTube channel, guys. See you guys. Have a great night.